Hi everyone, I'm back to give you an update on my layoff journey and projects that I'm really excited to be working on. So I was laid off about 6 months ago, and the market has been really competitive and it's been tough out there, but I'm still actively applying and interviewing for a full-time role in tech leadership. I am here, however, to talk about another project that I'm working on. See, about 2 months before I was laid off, I took the first steps into this lifelong dream of developing my own video game. I set up my local dev environment with Unity, and I took my first stabs at pixel art animation. When I was on maternity leave, I got the Nintendo Switch and quickly immerse myself in cozy and not so cozy games. And I find myself ultimately wishing for more cozy video games that involved crafting and problem solving and engaging art styles. Through the course of my life, I've played a few video games that have really stuck with me. And growing up, they were mostly point and click adventure problem solving video games like King's Quest, Day of the Tentacle, the Monkey Island franchise, Myst as a child, and then an adult. The more recent for me have been Stardew Valley, Spiritfarer, Oxenfree. I even got into Cozy Grove. Now, for my game, because I love pixel art and I love that style, I was really excited to take a stab at using that as my art style. But I quickly found out that it was extremely challenging to create all of my graphics using that style. And that's because it's very constraining, and the tools for creating pixel art are just outdated. There are a lot more modern ways to create art a lot more quickly. I also saw that in 2024, a lot of games came out looking a lot like Stardew Valley, and I get why developers would want to emulate that success. Stardew is extremely popular and beloved and has been wildly successful, but I wanted to come out with my own personal, authentic style, and the learning curve to not be as steep, as I also learned to develop all the other aspects of game development, including the coding, the environment setup, mechanics, all of that, along with the graphic creation, which is why I went for 2D line animation art. Originally, I knew that I wanted to develop a game that was about somebody who was very self-reliant, this woman who pretty much took care of business by herself and got into the situation where she had to learn to rely on a community and ask for help. I also knew that I wanted a world where there was no money currency. It would be essentially bartering and trading, also no combat. I wanted it to be a true cozy game. As I was writing a script for this video that I was going to call The Millennial Midlife Crisis, I looked at the script and I thought, what if I show and not tell? Instead of spelling it out to my viewer, what if I took this story and took these concepts and baked them into my video game storyline? And so that's where my overarching themes are gonna come from. This main character, Estelle, is going through a period of reinvention, reinventing her life and her life script, if you will. And she's trying to figure out what is it that truly brings her fulfillment, not others, just her very own self. And not to bring too many spoilers, but the areas of fulfillment that we're going to be exploring are joy and presence, mastery and growth, autonomy and authenticity, deep relationships, meaning and purpose, and contribution and legacy. So let's talk about the gameplay loop. And what is a gameplay loop? It's the core cycle of actions a player repeats while playing the game. In my case, I have a micro loop and a macro loop. For the micro loop, players making new recipes, and as they serve the recipes in the shop, they unlock new ingredients, new worlds, new dialogues, and again, more new recipes that they can make. and repeat that cycle. And for my macro loop, we are expanding the shop as we discover new worlds. And we are learning more about Estelle's story. We're watching her as she learns about how to fulfill her life and create a new life script. And ultimately, the goal of the game is to create rainbow jelly molds. And that's what I'm thinking will be the name of my game currently. And it represents a childhood memory of something that once brought her joy, that is nostalgic, and kind of brings her back to that childlike mindset that she had to give up really quickly because she was forced to grow up and be an adult early on. So that marks the end of the evolution. So it's not so much open-ended play, it does have a defined storyline. So here's where I've gotten so far. For the storyline, I've thought out the story progression through 5 worlds. What ingredients can be found there and what recipes the characters there will ask you to make. I have a list of game assets to create, storyboards, and I've started putting together some dialogue for character interaction. For the design, I've created a character sheet for my main character with the up, down, left, right walk animations, and I've also started laying out the first world. For development, I've set up my local dev environment for mobile and desktop compatibility. I've created the player game objects and written a walking script and attached my walking animations for each direction the player can go in. Another really exciting thing I put together is a parallax script, and I've attached it to different game elements to add a cool sense of direction to the 2D world map. As you can see, my ground stays in place when my character moves to suggest it's the closest element to the camera, and the shrubs on the midground lag behind just a little bit, and the clouds move even more slowly. But they do have a cloud drift animation to emulate the real thing. Now, I want to be transparent about my use of AI. I have used ChatGPT's image generation to help me visualize worlds that could only be possible in my mind. But I still have had to get in there and be really hands-on about generating exportable, usable game assets. And then as far as the coding, I have used ChatGPT to generate some scripts for me. And that's because my coding background is more in React and TypeScript, whereas Unity runs on C#. So to ease that learning curve, I've been using ChatGPT to help me with the coding. Now I'm trying to use AI responsibly, and I feel good about it for 2 reasons. First is that the ideas are all mine and all the creativity is coming from a human, myself. And I also think that AI has helped me work a lot more quickly than I would have. I feel like there would be a much lower chance that I would get anything out there in public hands if I didn't have AI to help me just get unstuck with the more deeply technical things. So I feel pretty good about using it. Which brings us to my goals for this project. I do want to have a playable demo for anybody to run on a personal computer. Hopefully by the end of the year. I am still actively looking for a full-time role, like I said, so I do want to be realistic about timelines. This demo will have a couple of complete micro loops, and that includes 2 distinct worlds, 12 recipes, dozens of ingredients, 8 characters, and all of the actions and dialogue and puzzles that are involved in progressing through those worlds. I know this is kind of a large undertaking, so I am open to working with graphic designers that have at least an interest in video game design. I think that would speed up my process quite a bit. So if you know of anybody who might be interested in that, I would love to get an introduction. Well, that's what I've been up to during this layoff period. I love collaborating and bouncing ideas off of people, so if you have any thoughts on how to make this game better, just based on what you've seen so far, what I've showed you, reach out and let me know. I'll try to post updates as I make progress, and I'm excited to take you on this journey with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.